roadmap.
Okay, you all ready? There you go. I hereby call this meeting to order for the purpose of considering adoption of the PCSD 25 roadmap, inclusive of masks/face coverings and other COVID mitigation strategies. I will turn the time over to Dr. Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Can you hear me? How about now? No. Okay. Give us just a second. Okay. Not yet. There we go. Maybe get closer. No. Okay. No. It's on. Yes.
No.
You want to try another one?
Okay. Yes, that'd be great, Mr. Mason. Thank you.
Turn this one on up there, that works.
All right, Mr. Chairman, thank you. Tonight, I would like to present we're actually, with Mrs. Fisher's presentation, she's going to address the name. We want to be more transparent when we come forward so that our community realizes what we're talking about when we say a roadmap. That may have been a little bit confusing, so I'm going to ask Mrs. Fisher to start. After Mrs. Fisher, Mrs. Miner will present, and then Mr. Balls. I've asked him to talk to us a little bit about COVID mitigation. And if we could, we'll go to that point. Mrs. Fisher, please. Thank you. That one was turned off.
Musical microphone. Okay. Good evening, Mr. Chairman.
You can turn that other one off now. I think you're getting some feedback.
Okay, good evening, Mr. Chairman, trustees, Dr. Howell, and Ms. Johnson. Tonight I'll be sharing with you several of the revisions that we've made to the roadmap based on community feedback as well as direction from you.
Step to the side of that.
Step to the side of this.
And then a little closer to your
There? I'll just move over here so I can have my notes. I would like to reiterate, Mrs. Craner said something to me yesterday. It gets worse when, okay. Should I try again? Now it's off. Now it's completely off. Is it on now?
We need to work on their sound system.
Thank you for being patient while we address these technical difficulties. Should I try again? Can you hear me? Is it coming through or?
Can you all hear?
I think they're all off.
No.
They're up and on. Thank you for your patience.
What? I don't really have a teacher's voice. Have you not learned that about me yet? You all are so well at projecting your voices. Can you hear me if I speak like this? No.
Test 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Again, thank you for your patience, and I hope that we can proceed with this meeting in kindness. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, trustees, Dr. Howell, and Ms. Johnson. I'd like to reiterate that what we're speaking about tonight, the roadmap, is a living working document and subject to change at the direction of the board. I'm here to walk you through the most recent updates to our roadmap, the first of which is on page 1. I think. Okay, so this is the guiding principles, and if you'll notice at the top, in red notes the changes, the revisions that have been made, and we wanted to add clarity to the document that we were working on, and so we have aligned this with the State Department of Education's roadmap by changing the title. So the new title is the School District 25 Roadmap for the Safe Return to In-Person Instruction and Continuity of Services for the 2021-2022 school year. I'm here to, we also, Ms. McGrory brought to our attention last week something about the safety and well-being of our teachers and learners. So while we did have a statement on page 3 of the roadmap, we felt that it was important because this is a guiding statement for us at all times as a school district. So we added, we will prioritize the success, safety, and well-being of our learners and staff while providing a flexible framework to address challenges that arise throughout the 2021-2022 school year. The third change we made is just the adoption date. So anticipated adoption date has been changed to September 28th, which is today. No changes have been made to page 2. However, I would like to note for our community and for you that anytime once you adopt this roadmap, that we make a revision, it will follow this revision legend. So any changes will be, major changes will be noted in red. Anything that's been eliminated will be strike through in red. And then minor changes will be noted in blue, whether it's a spelling error or something else grammatical that we've caught. Or a green is just moving from one thing to another. I'm going to come back to page 3 in just a moment, which talks about our leadership dashboard and key metrics for decision making. On page 8, you'll notice in green that we moved from phase 2 over to phase 1. And this is just so that we can add some physical distancing practices. So practice physical distancing and designate flow paths, and that's when we're serving meals and supporting school nutrition. The same thing in the column below, transitioning. We moved that marked space lines and designate entrance and exit flow paths into phase 1, again, just to add some opportunities for more physical distancing throughout our schools. On the next page where it says conduct large group gatherings, we added in red, assemblies will be evaluated on a case-by-case basis and may be held with the appropriate modifications. We do want to continue to give our learners the opportunity to gather. Assemblies are a very important and fun part of what we do, but we will ask our administrators to make those necessary modifications to ensure that those continue to happen. On page 10, We added elementary online learning program that will be done through the Idaho Digital Learning Alliance, and Mrs. Craney put this together. And I'll just walk you through a few key points to this. The district will utilize Idaho Digital Learning Alliance for alternative instruction. Learners enrolled in this option will follow IDLA requirements for attendance. This option is available for learners in grades 1 through 5. Our patrons may call the district office for registration information, and learners are required to stay in the program for the entire semester. Because we are on trimesters, that does present some challenges. The registration for the spring semester begins October 11th, and the session begins January 10th and 24th. And there's some other details for people to check out if they're interested in that option in the roadmap. All right, when a staff member, learner, or visitor exhibits symptoms, we added at school, because this first part, there was a little bit of a lack of clarity here for, we really want to encourage anyone, staff member or learner who's feeling ill, to please stay home. And so this front section really emphasizes what our staff should do should a learner or staff member become ill when they are already at school. So that's just a clarification there. We also added some clarification to supporting vaccination efforts. We've already had 2 clinics, so I just wanted to add clarity to say that early 2021 is when those 2 clinics were held. And then the process and timeline for review, we wanted to also add clarity to this section by noting that at minimum, the board will be asked to review this. August was one of those dates. That date has passed. The next date will be in February, but the board has the discretion at any time in any meeting, regular, special, work session, to address the roadmap and make changes according to your direction, of course in accordance with Idaho open meeting law. And then at the very end, this is a resource that we developed for our school staff, our secretarial staff, to give people guidance for what happens if you think you may be a close contact of a confirmed case. So we just wanted to add that as a resource at the very end of the document. So those are the changes that we'll be asking you to consider for adoption this evening. And then I just want to quickly turn you back to page 3 and go over the leadership dashboard a little bit more in depth. This leadership dashboard, let me get back to that, has several key metrics that we are looking at as a leadership team, really on a day-to-day basis. And so we will be bringing those metrics to you and asking you to consider those. It's really looking at a whole bunch of different parameters, really in confluence of each other, and then giving you the best information so that you can provide guidance to us and the direction that you would like to see. So the following criteria may be applied. This is really important. It could be applied to a group, it could be applied to a school, or it could be applied district-wide. The first one is the overall impact of the virus on the community. This is looking at the CDC's COVID data tracker and other relevant data, including local regional hospital capacity and the implementation of crisis standards of care. The second one is the rate of active cases in Bannock County, sustained for 14 days. This is based on every case per 10,000. And so Southeast Idaho Public Health emails that to us daily. And it has gone in the last, I'll just give you the last 5-day count. On 9/22, it was at 81.2. On 9/23, it was at 76.76. On 9/24, it was at 81.43. On 9/27, it was at 65.14, and on 9/28, it was at 67.8. So you can see some fluctuation there. When I asked Ms. Mann where they like to see that number at, they like to see it between 4 and 8, and we're in the 60s. So that's important to note. The number of positive cases, and Mrs. Miner, she'll be following me, and she's going to be sharing some of these numbers more specifically, but we're looking at the active positive cases on a daily basis. We meet, we look at trends. Same thing with our staff. We're looking at how many staff are out, what our substitution pool looks like, and Ms. Miner will share information with you on that. The impact on our learners, how many absences. We are looking at our average daily attendance rate every day. to see trends that way. Same thing with staff. And then, of course, our partner recommendations, our state and local governing agencies, health and medical providers, as well as Southeast Idaho Public Health. And then we're monitoring trends. We're monitoring trends from Blackfoot to Idaho Falls to Preston to American Falls, and really watching Ada County as well. Just it helps us to really evaluate those trends. Also included in your addendum this evening is a summary of feedback. And that is feedback received from August 31st through September 28th. And we have received, as you know, quite a bit of feedback that covers the spectrum of opinion. And then the last thing that I will share with you is an update for the district board from the Southeast Idaho Public Health. Between 7/30/21 and 9/28/2021, Southeast Idaho Public Health's 8 counties have had 4,386 new cases of COVID-19. Of those new cases, 839, or 19%, were in children under the age of 18. Last year, during that same time frame, 2,120 cases occurred. 299 of those, which is 14% of cases, were in children under the age of 18. And then there's some other data, vaccine data updated for you, as well as the continuation of the precautions that Southeast Idaho Public Health, as well as our medical providers, would like us to be following. And then a statement from the department that says, we recognize this as a challenging situation with no clear answers and no one correct path. Southeast Idaho Public Health staff are supportive of the school district's efforts and will continue to work to support the school district moving forward. And if there aren't any questions for me, I will turn it over to Brenda, Ms. Minor, to go over some of the data more in depth.
Thank you, Courtney.
Thank you.
No.
Good evening. I still have quite a good teacher voice, so I'm hopeful that you can hear me. So I just want to go over a little bit of some of those metrics that we've looked at, and the number of positive cases for learner and staffs was one of those criteria. So, whoops, I'm going the wrong way. There we go. Sorry about that. Oh, Courtney, you went, sorry, you went in a little further to mine. There we go. Give me just a second. You would want to stop working, right, when I get to right before mine? Wonder why that's the case. Ooh, man, this is a little particular, isn't it? Yeah. All right, we're ready. Okay, great. Well, it's great on this screen. There we go, just a little bit of a delay. All right, the first slide, I just want to make sure that we update you from our numbers from on Friday. If you remember, we update those numbers on Friday morning. And again, this is our documented case. And so when in looking at that from Friday, it showed 64 students and 14 staff. And just to double check, I kind of went in today to see where we were at and see if we were close, and we were in the same ballpark. That reflection is about comparable for Monday and Tuesday as well. And the next one that I wanted to put in was is a historical representation of where we've been. So what this slide is from August 27th until September 24th, which was last Friday. So you guys can kind of take a look. I, of course, put glasses on top of my head because I've had to start wearing them now as I've gotten older. So when I look at those numbers, I just wanted to give you that opportunity to see those cases and where they were. And that was as of Friday last week.
And this is just in the district.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Mrs. Craner.
This is just in the district.
This is just in the school district, correct. And then the last one, I apologize for this. I tried to make it bigger and it's a little hard to see, so in the audience I'll just kind of tell you what this shows. This is week 1 through 5 in the school district, and this is all of our schools, because another one of those metrics when we looked at, of course, is it talks about the documented cases, and it talks about the student absences, learner absences, those types of things. So if you look at this, and I'll just read you the bottom number so that you can know that. Then week 1, which was 827, the average attendance was 95.57. Week 2 was 91.33. Week 3 was 86.48. And week 4 was 88. And then this past week was 90.61 as our daily attendance. And that's an average, of course, as you can see, of all of our schools. And again, I went and double checked up front with the ladies and to see what they were. And I think yesterday was 91. And so right in that same ballpark. Any questions for me?
No?
Thank you.
That's normal, though. 91.
Yeah, that's good.
Above state average, and that's normal.
Correct.
Good evening, board members. I've been asked to quickly share some of the types of supplies and equipment that our schools use to keep our staff and learners safe and healthy and to stay in school. So we went back in the warehouse to take some of these pictures. As a reminder, the schools got kind of a care package to start school. But what you're seeing on the screen now is the gallons of hand sanitizer that we have. We also have those individual hand pumps as well. And mine with pictures is going to go a little bit slower, I think. Maybe. There we go. Antibacterial wipes. We have cases and cases of those. Even some more wipes that just came in at the end of last week, these Clorox wipes that we have. Again, we have boxes and cases, pallets full of gloves to use there. We do have some disposable masks. We do have even more face shields. In the way of disinfectant, we have have these pure tabs, which are little tablets that are dissolved in water. Very cost-effective yet highly effective way to get that spray disinfectant, and so we have several cases of those as well. Again, the way that we get that disinfectant, again, a simple spray bottle that the teachers or staff can spray their individual workspaces. We have these electrostatic sprayers that can cover larger areas, and with that electrostatic can wrap around desks, doorknobs, and so forth. Each school has at least 2 of these, as well as these big backpack sprayers. Same concept, the electrostatic spray wraps around, but these backpacks can cover larger areas, and obviously has cover larger areas because of the backpack capacity there. Again, each one of the schools at least has 2 of these. Again, the high school's wrestling room, these disinfectant, they love these tools as well. This last piece is an ozone machine. Again, this, as with a lot of this equipment, supplies, these aren't new. Prior to this current time, we had used these in our weight rooms and wrestling rooms, and they basically will just kill almost everything there, even to the effect that we have to remove any plants or animals from the room during that. Obviously, caution is taken. These are run at night with all the precautions there, so no humans are around during this time. But we do have approximately 10 of these that, upon request, which they have been used in the school classrooms to disinfect at night. And then finally, wanted to just reiterate some of the air quality investments over the past several years that we've invested in that allows our schools to turn over the air approximately 6 to 7 times. This is actually a picture on the top of Green Acres. The 2 HVAC units, those little triangle pointy things in the middle, those are actually the air intake controllers there. And then last slide here. This is actually a graphical user interface of that air intake. If you could see that bottom left, it actually will regulate how much airflow. I think it was 50 when I snapped that screenshot, allowing 50% of the, it's open 50% to allow the fresh air to come in. And again, all those items, those lines that you can see on the left-hand side are all the various schools and heat pumps, air intake machines that again keep our air circulating in our schools. Again, our goal is to keep our staff and learners in school learning. Any questions by way of supplies or equipment?
All the training's been done? Everyone knows how to use them?
Yes, all the training has been done. And so yes, I would say that would be yes.
Mr. Balls, can you talk about the air exchange and how often that happens?
Oh, sure. Okay, you bet. The air exchange, as we estimate, the air in an individual classroom and building it does get monitored, and it does recycle about 6 to 7 times an hour. And so, again, it brings in that fresh air, circulates, and then the air that fresh air does come into that school about 6 to 7 times an hour.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, as the administration continues to present, I've asked a delegate from each level of our schools, one from an elementary, one from middle school, and one from high school, to share with the board their thoughts and considerations regarding the roadmap and the instruction thus far this year, and maybe the direction, perhaps if they'd like to share an opinion or just share some general information with you today. And so from Century High School, Mrs. Brockett will talk to the board today. Oh, there she is right there. Thank you. After Mrs. Brockett, we'll have Mrs. Bowie come up, and then after Mrs. Bowie, we'll have Mr. Watson from Chubbuck come up.
Fell right out of there. Thank you, Dr. Howell. So thank you for taking just a few moments of time to listen to the concerns at the high school level. As we continue to navigate these unprecedented times, we have learned that there are certainly no right answers and no way to please all of our stakeholders. Our goal is to continue to provide quality education and those services to our students while maintaining a safe and healthy environment. We have many strategies in place to help provide that healthy and safe environment for our learners. Some of these include a staggered lunch release, numerous hand sanitizing stations throughout the school, seating charts in place with as much as possible with the learners facing forward and distance. Hello, there we are. And distance as much as possible, very difficult with some large classroom sizes. We have those electrostatic cleaners available for classroom use as described by Jonathan. Our classrooms are all equipped. Are we back?
Yes.
Classrooms are equipped with a selection of cleaning supplies, sprays, sanitizers, and wipes. And as also described earlier, the ventilation system is currently turning over the air in classrooms up to 7 times per hour. To mask or to not mask is clearly a divided issue in our community. As employees of the Pocatello Chubbuck School District, we will support the direction of the board. However, we do have some concerns regarding the enforcement of a mask mandate. As administrators and teachers, we have been verbally assaulted regarding our efforts to gain compliance. This position is extremely difficult, if not impossible, to manage. We are in a situation where some parents have directed their learners to video or record teachers and administrators correcting learners. This feels somewhat like a trap to educators. Other students have been directed by parents to be totally non-compliant. Can you imagine trying to manage a school setting with non-compliant learners? Other families have chosen to keep learners home from school, as without a mask mandate, they will not attend because it poses additional health and safety risks to their own families. They have self-directed and told us what they're doing. They are doing their work at home through the use of Google Classroom with the intent of that being their sole source of learning. This puts an undue burden on our teachers, and it is not the intent of Google Classroom, nor do the teachers have the time and the energy to provide that type of instruction. When meeting with teachers, it is clearly evident that our team is feeling overwhelmed and undervalued by the community. We are in this together for kids. We just want to teach and be a part of educating our students. We want to educate our learners without these distractions. We understand the complexity of issues on both sides of the mask debate. Everyone is spread thin, and we are in need of support in terms of time and resources. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Board members, for those who don't know me, I'm Amy Bowie, principal at Irving Middle School, and I want to begin by thanking each of you not only for your time, but also for the sacrifices you make because of your commitment to our community of faculty, staff, learners, and students. I can only partially understand the weight on your shoulders as you try to represent a community during such a difficult and even unprecedented time. That being said, I want to begin my remarks by saying that as a principal, I'm tasked with making sure I represent all of my teachers, staff members, learners, and families. And stated simply, they don't all agree on what measures should be implemented in our schools. Under no circumstance would I want my remarks to make anyone feel as though I was not representing them or being empathetic. That's my big fear. I don't want anyone to think that I'm not being empathetic, because I am listening. I'm listening to their individual circumstances in regards to this issue. And their circumstances are so varied. I am concerned with the physical and mental well-being of all of our learners. I am also beyond grateful for dedicated teachers and staff members who relentlessly strive to help our kids learn and thrive academically, socially, and emotionally despite being bombarded with so many challenges right now. Therefore, I hope my words tonight are taken as informative, not persuasive. My job is to give you some information that might be helpful to you as you make some difficult decisions. First, I want to talk to you about mitigating strategies that we are currently using in the building. I'll talk to you about Irving, but I think this is pretty representative of all the middle schools. We're utilizing space to the best of our abilities. At Irving, for example, our cafeteria is fairly small, and for the number of the students we have, we've opened lunches to being served and eaten in our small gym in addition to the cafeteria, and we're also allowing learners to go outside, and as the weather changes, we'll continue to make adaptations to that plan so that we can have as much space as we can. Our PE teachers, bless their hearts, they're doing a really good job. They make sure every student sanitizes their hands at the beginning of class, and all equipment, including scoreboards, volleyball stands, are disinfected and sanitized between each class. Our classrooms, each classroom's a little different, but our teachers are using space the best they can. Depending on the classroom, some Smaller classrooms just try to ensure their students are facing forward. Other classrooms try to keep students 3 feet apart where possible. Our teachers are also disinfecting and sanitizing, at least during longer breaks, and some are doing it between every class. Our custodian is using the Protexis sprayer system that was just talked about for high traffic areas such as hallways, lockers, cafeteria, gym, and the main office. We're encouraging, and I want to emphasize that word encouraging, we're encouraging in a positive way our students to take measures to sanitize, to wash their hands more frequently, to try to keep their hands to themselves. That was before COVID that I had to say that. Like going from a high school to middle school, I think the words that come out of my mouth most frequently are, don't touch anyone ever. Like I just need a shirt that says don't touch anyone ever. But we're trying to do it in a positive way and encourage them and reward them. I talk about it on the morning announcements. I tell them I appreciate their efforts. And we're also using the Ozone Machine when we have like a small cluster of cases, like in a certain classroom, like was talked about. And this wasn't on my notes, but I just feel compelled to tell you this. Currently, I am really, really proud of my learners at Irving because we really emphasize respecting each other's differences and that we all come from different backgrounds and viewpoints and we may look different, we may dress differently, and I will tell you that the issue of the masks has been, it has gone really well. Some learners are wearing their masks and some learners are not, and they're respecting each other, and I feel that's not in my notes, but that's something, and I tell them that I'm proud of that. Secondly, I think it might be helpful to share some of the concerns about the logistics of enforcing a mask mandate. Number one, the thing I've heard the most from many teachers is their concerns about the impact on relationships. I know that you're aware of the emphasis in this district on building positive relationships with learners. I know you're aware of that because you're really good board members and you're aware of a lot of things. It shows up everywhere. In the Danielson model, which drives our observations, the administrative observations of teachers and the feedback we give them, there's an emphasis on the fact that creating an environment of respect and rapport not only sets the tone of the classroom, but it encourages learners to take intellectual risks. And that's really important to me. I teach, and to all of our teachers, I teach a course for new teachers in the district on discipline in the secondary classroom. One of the 5 major strategies teachers can use to create a culture of learning where students are orderly, responsive, engaged, and motivated is to interact positively and build relationships. It's one of the 5 major things teachers can do. So now I don't want to assert that teachers can't interact positively with students when there's a mask mandate, because I've watched them do that. However, it becomes challenging to build these relationships when they're constantly asking them to wear their masks properly or appropriately. It really is a constant battle to remind students to pull up their masks and wear them properly. And I think one thing that everyone would agree on is that if they're not wearing the mask properly, they're not serving any purpose. And you know, I'll use myself as an example. Typically in the hall, last year during the masks mandate, I would typically stand in the hallway and say, oh, you got a haircut. How was your weekend? It's so good to see you. And last year, I was always very positive, but I would politely just say, hey, remember to pull up your mask, remember to pull up your mask. And those things, those things affect relationships. The other major issue is this idea of exemptions, and there are students who will have exemptions from wearing masks. And it'll be difficult in a school of over 700 students to keep track of who has an exemption and who does not. And this just adds a layer of monitoring for teachers and administrators. And I know that some of my teachers are concerned about that as well. Ultimately, I want you to know that we support you as school board members and we support you as humans. We will do our best with whatever decisions are made today. We care about kids. That's why we're all here. We want them to stay in school. We'll do what we need to do to make sure they keep learning and progressing. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Amy.
Good evening, board members. I am A.J. Watson, the principal at Chubbuck Elementary. I'd like to start by thanking you for your time, consideration.
Move it up a little.
Closer, Mrs. Springer.
Yeah.
Is that a little better?
Better.
For your time, consideration, and efforts in providing direction and guidance in what we can all deem as unique and challenging times. As a school level administrator, I also appreciate your commitment and desire to prioritize in-person learning 5 days a week in our district. As educators, we truly value and understand the importance of face-to-face learning. I've been asked to take a couple of minutes and share with you some of the mitigation strategies that have been and can be implemented at the school level, at the elementary school level, as you consider the district roadmap tonight. These are strategies that we continue to use and have used and can, as needed, implement. They include hand sanitizer and hand washing. Elementary school, as you know, is all about routines and habits. And so our elementary learners have become very good at washing their hands, transition times, coming in from recess, after lunch. There's hand sanitizer in every classroom, hand sanitizing stations in the lunchroom. They are used frequently. Cleaning and disinfecting, as you have heard, we have the Pure Tab spray bottles, the handheld and backpack sprayers. We go through a lot of wipes in an elementary school, keeping things clean and wiping down almost everything on a regular basis. And that was probably a while ago, I guess, COVID times, but we use them even more now. And also cleaning of our commons areas, our library, our lunchroom. One of the advantages we have in an elementary is being able to cohort groups by classes and grade levels. So as we do things such as stagger lunches, as we have classes by grade level come down to the library or by class, we're able to clean those areas, wipe them down before the next class or the next group comes in. And I realize that's an advantage that we have with cohorts and groups at the elementary level. The use of large spaces or outdoors for group activities or assemblies, water fountains. The elementary learners, they love new and neat things, and so we have the water fountains that have the water bottle fillers installed, and they love to track how much plastic, how many water bottles have been saved, and so they regularly use those. Even in our first grade, I'll go in and oftentimes I will see them overfilling their water bottles because they don't know when to stop and just keep filling them up, but they are well used in our school. And then the optional use of face coverings for both learners and staff. In regards to a possible mask mandate, and based on your discussion and decision tonight, we just ask the board to consider and provide guidance as to the level of enforcement at the elementary schools so that we can maintain consistency across the district. Some possible areas for consideration would include consequences for learners and their staff that choose not to wear masks, mask exemptions, what type will be accepted and from whom, mask requirements during transition periods. At the elementary level, they still enjoy and like to go out for recess, and what would masks look like during those transition periods, outside of recess, during lunch, in the hallways, on the bus. And also a consideration of the amount of time and stress placed both on learners and staff and administrators, given the current climate and the divisiveness regarding masks. As elementary administrators, we understand your difficult task. We support the school board's decisions and directions as our governing body. We will continue to do our very best to minimize the spread of COVID-19 as we all work together. Board members, administration, teachers, staff, parents and guardians, and community members to prioritize learning for all learners in the Pocatello Chubbuck School District. Do you have any questions for me that I could answer?
No questions, just your last 3 speakers have been enjoyable.
Thank you.
Enjoyable. Okay, Martin?
You bet, Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Okay.
We have concluded our presentation tonight as far as the administration goes, and we recommend adopting the roadmap for the safe return to in-person instruction and continuity of services for the 21-22 school year as presented, and that mask and face coverings remain a family choice at this time. Your turn.
Okay. It's now time for public comment, written comment, and I have received 50 comments, or requests for. Per board policy 2202P, the board will make public comment for 1 hour. So if I have 50, that'll give everyone 1 minute. That's not going to fly. So I'm asking if there's groups here that are going to speak together, they speak alike, whatever, they all signed up, pick a spokesman. Pick a spokesman so we can get at least 3 minutes out of every speaker. If not, I'm going to have to take the top 20 and give everyone 3 minutes. And I don't know who the top 20 are. So I'm just throwing that out to you. Let me read some more here. Let's see here. If the presenter's comments become repetitive, I'm going to ask for new information. I'm sorry, that'll hurt somebody's feelings, but we need to move on and let somebody else speak. If you've spoken to us before recently, we heard you, okay? And let somebody new speak, okay? And then please, it's all about decorum and respect. Please keep your comments civil and respectful. The board expects the public to listen and only speak when recognized by the board chair. Cheering or clapping is to be kept to a minimum. Taunting, jeering, and any other outbursts during the meeting will not be tolerated. If behavior becomes disruptive, I'll issue a warning. If it continues, the board will reserve the right to recess this meeting and remove the disruptive individuals. I'm sorry, but that's what we have to do. Okay, first one is Aaron Preston. Please come forward. You have 3 minutes.
No one,
What's that?
unless they defer.
Unless they differ.
Defer if
Oh, unless they defer. She can defer now, but Aaron Preston's the first one on my stack. You have 3 minutes.
oh, I see.
I'm going to have to do 3 minutes. I'm sorry. Can you get enough? Just keep going and we'll watch our watches. Keep going.
Okay, hi, my name is Erin Preston. I am a certified critical care and trauma nurse. Most recently, I spent 10 years in transport medicine, transporting the most critically ill patients. My purpose tonight is just review a risk analysis of COVID-19 and review the science behind the mask. And I have truncated my speech, so I apologize if it's a little bit broken. But basically right now, the top 3 killers of adults 25 to 60, which are administration and teachers, are heart disease, cancer, and accidents. As of August 2021, COVID-19 sits at number 4. Those, of course, are all contributing factors of lifestyle factors, genetic factors, and environmental factors. The lifestyle factors, of course, being choices. For school-age children 5 to 14, August 7th was the deadliest day for them, in which 7 children in the United States died of COVID-19. That ranked at the 12th leading cause of death for them, which means they had 12 other likely more reasons that they were going to die. So I'd like to now review the mask really quickly. Some of the scientists are coming out. Journal of Disease and Epidemiology stated that masks cause skin sensitivity, rash, skin breakdown, headaches, but more importantly, impaired cognition. The Journal of Biological Engineering said that it interfered with physiological and psychological aspects of task performance. Task performance for our children means tests, taking spelling tests, working with their friends, working on the computer. The International Journal of Environmental Research and Public Health in April of 2021 coined a term, mask-induced exhaustion syndrome, which showed a significant correlation between the drop in oxygenation and fatigue, also caused respiratory impairment and increased CO2 levels. And I quote, they say, extended mask wearing by the general population could lead to relevant effects and consequences in many medical fields. The Journal of Neurological Sciences found that it causes significant alteration in cerebral hemodynamics, which means it affects cerebral blood flow. Once they remove the mask, it actually returned to normal. But this is the most concerning one, and it comes from Water Research. It was published in May of 2021. They said that there's ubiquitous, unregulated mask production happening in China, and what is happening is that they're finding that these inorganic and organic chemicals are being leached from the masks, And these are some toxic substances, both to the human and to the environment. And I quote their study when they say, one of the main concerns with these particles is that they are easily detached from face masks and leach into the water with no agitation. Now, what does water mean and what does leaching mean when you're wearing a mask? Breathing, sneezing, coughing. My daughter chewed through her mask in kindergarten. I would call that agitation with moisture. They say a full investigation is necessary to determine the quantities and potential impacts of particles leaching and being inhaled by users during normal breathing. This is a significant concern, especially for healthcare professionals, key workers, and children who are required to wear masks for large portions of the working or school day. And so some of the questions have come to be.
It's time.
Oh,
time,
so
please.
sorry.
Thank
Well, I'd
you.
like to finish with
Thank
one
you.
thought.
No, Aaron, no. Thank you. We're cutting into somebody else's time, okay? Megan Furness.
Mr. Chairman, maybe
Yep.
call the next one and put them.
Okay, Scott Kenny's next. No. Scott after her. After her, sure, but you're close.
Hi, Board. My name is Megan Furness. I was a teacher for 10 years, and I have a degree in administration. Right now, I stay at home, but my heart goes out to those administrators and those that will be burdened with the mandate placed on them. They are currently dealing with record-setting suicide and suicide attempt rates in Idaho, according to CDC numbers. Faculty and admin, among with students, do not need the extra burden of mandatory masks added to that list. The most important title I bear is mom. It's my job to defend my child, to stand up for her and protect her from others. I take that job seriously. Because of that, I cannot stay silent. She has been told that she is a disease, that she is a problem, that the air around her is dangerous, and that she should be scared. This is a message being sent to children, and I know that because people have stopped me in public and told my child those things to her face. That is not okay. COVID poses almost no risk to our children at all. 4.2 million children have tested positive for COVID as of last week on the CDC website. A total of 0.008 children have died. The CDC estimated that 480 kids died from the flu in 2018-2019. In 2017-2018, it was estimated that 528 children died from the flu. The CDC website tells us that 439 children from 0 to 17 have died from COVID since its arrival in 2020. That is 2 flu seasons. Less children have died from COVID so far than 1 flu season alone before COVID. Do we suggest in 2019 that we should have masked all the children? Do we suggest in 2018 that we should have masked all the children when 500 children died that year? If I had masked my child in 2018, people would have called me in for child abuse. Simple as that. OSHA experts explain that there is an alarming change in the CO2 levels by using carbon dioxide monitor on a child that's wearing a mask even after only a minute. Is that safe for my child? These are only a few things of the effects that the mask will have on our students. As a parent, this is not okay. What about my child learning to read and they cannot see their teacher's face? They cannot understand her enunciation. What about the mental health of the students? What about forcing them to breathe through a Petri dish all day long? If my child suffers any of the side effects from a mask or from catching COVID, that is my burden to bear. I, the parent, will be the one that has to correct and help solve these issues. I am asking you, please let the parents make this decision on masking their child. The parents are the ones that have to deal with the effects of masking or non-masking, and therefore it should be a parental decision. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Megan. Scott, you're up. The next one is Kathy Baxter. Next one up.
Okay, I've lived in this community for 46 years. I have 22 grandchildren in the community. I have voluntarily worked with children and youth all of my adult life. I have coached kids and youth for 22 years straight. I have volunteered many years in the classrooms and have organized and ran school carnivals. I also have taught and been taught by children and youth at church in our community for over 40 years to this day. Our children and our youth are very precious to me, as are their families. You've been given great insight by this community as to why you cannot mask our children. You and the administration failed our kids in our community last year with many failed policies. There were a number of school districts in Idaho that did not adopt the failed policies of this administration last year, and they did very well. I had hoped that you had learned from these mistakes last year that could be understood and put behind us. But here we are, having to tell you again to let the families make those choices. Many great reasons for parent choices about masking have already been repeatedly given to you. Some of you are not listening, or we wouldn't be having masking meetings. I'd like to remind you that you were elected by these people to serve them, not yourselves. You ran in an election asking for this position, and this is a very challenging responsibility. We would like to think that you would listen to these people and make decisions in line with what they are telling you, but you are intentionally disrespecting these families on this masking of their children, or we wouldn't be here again today. Let's ask all of these people if they want you to mask their children or give them that choice. Wait, we already have. You already know the answer. They demand to make that choice. Right now, parents are choosing for their children to wear a mask to school or not, or anywhere else, or not. We respect every parent or child's choice to wear a mask or not. We honor their choice, and we love them no matter what their choice is on this issue. Let's do the right thing and let every family in the district vote on this issue. Wait a minute. We already have. Walk into any 5 or 6 or more classrooms in this district and you will see that they are already voting, and they will continue voting every day by whether or not their kids are wearing a mask at school or anywhere else or not. I will bet that the percentage of kids not wearing a mask are very, very high. This is the voice of the people, and you already know this. If you want the respect of this community, then you should respect the wishes of this community. Masking of the children is the right of the parents, not yours. Serve these people and these kids according to what they are telling you. If you can't do that, then you need to step aside for someone else who will listen and serve.
Okay, that's your first warning. Not again. Again, it happens. I'm going to recess this meeting. We'll remove you, and we'll make. Recess us, remove us. We'll remove you. Okay. Kathy Baxter.
Continue the meeting.
On time. Kathy Baxter. She's not here. Tina. Miadenka? Madenka? Ladenka. Okay. Not coming up. Okay. Allison Weems? Not here. Christian? No, we got these people here. Christian Field Baker. Come on down. The next one will be Taryn Gardner.
Thank you for having me. All scientific studies I mention will have links at the end of the document. I'm not going to mention those to save time. Our nation's principles and foundations of philosophy are founded in the ideology of inalienable rights granted by a supreme being. To mix Thomas Paine, Descartes, and some John Paul Sartre, because we exist and have the ability to distinguish ourselves from the environment and our ability to think beyond ourselves and the other, means we have these rights, inalienable to us, giving us responsibility to act beyond the tendencies of the primal. I'm going to skip a few paragraphs. Now I will pose recommendations to the board. I hope you take these into serious consideration. I was a leader in the United States military. I have 5 years of executive leadership experience. I believe there is time for en masse mandates, putting an entire population under control to protect said population. However, given my previous paragraphs that I have cited and will give you copies for, Our country, in which it was founded, I recommend a comprehensive measure to take pinpoint action at the hot spots in the school district boundaries if you feel the need to do so. I recommend you read all links and studies that I have mentioned in this document. For the participants behind me, I recommend that if you want to protest or take peaceful action, that you do so at the school district headquarters located at 3115 Pole Line Road. The educators and administration are only following the board's directives as they should, and the learners are not political collateral damage. For the board, I ask that your roadmap have litmus tests and clearly marked measures of student population affected by percentages instead of not providing anything but marked measures or vague outlines in your roadmap for your movement to each phase. Having a percentage limit to engage mask mandates or lockdown at the high school, middle school, or even elementary level will give clear explanation, expectations, and make your moves seem less politically charged, giving an air of professionalism to the vague approach. Lastly, I would like to rebuke your motives for last week as a private citizen of this great nation. For the moment we condone silent votes in the night, we become more like socialist Nazis, communist China, and communist Russia. Our nation must operate in the light of day and operate fairly and impartially to its people. Failure to do otherwise instantly draws your competency into question, and considering you are not the mayoral body, the state governing body, and far from the federal state, you have no right to mandate limits outside of the state guidelines. Doing so puts your professional educators at risk and the student body at risk.
Karen? Good. And Laura, okay, Laura Baxter's up again. Oh, Karen, this is, okay.
My name is Taryn Gardner. I'm coming to you as an educator and as a parent. My children made up their own mind about masks a while ago. I would encourage them to get out of the house with me, but as long as masks were required, they chose to stay isolated at home. Abnormalcy was created in their lives, and now it's time to let them continue to choose to have a normal school year. It was terrible to make certain children wear a mask all day. My son talked even less than normal. He didn't do as well on tests, rarely smiled, and he was miserable wearing a mask. He normally loves school. Let families continue to choose what is right for their individual child. When the mask mandate was in place, it broke my heart to see once happy, talkative children completely lose their spirit by having to wear a mask. Additionally, there were distractions caused by the abnormality of constant mask wearing that took valuable time away from learners' education. The day after the mask mandate was lifted, some learners who didn't talk much all year were now smiling, laughing, and talking up a storm. They were way too young to carry such a big burden on their shoulders due to the mask mandate. Children should not have something that weighs so little carry such a heavy weight on their hearts. When are we going to start considering what is best for our learners from a complete education standpoint? All learners deserve to succeed intellectually and mentally. It's not right to leave these factors out and base the plan only on certain individuals' opinions of what a safe plan will be. My other child was depressed having to wear a mask. It also affected his progress with his speech. And after graduating, after being enrolled for almost 7 years, it breaks my heart after distant learning and mask wearing. He is mispronouncing many words that he used to say correctly, and he is harder to understand. My son does not want to wear a mask for another school year, and he should have the right to choose. Parents and guardians are the ones who care about and know their children best. If they feel a mask is the best choice, they can have their child wear a mask. But if a parent feels a mask will affect their child's learning in a negative way or will affect their mental well-being. They should have the right to choose for their child not to wear a mask. We are supposed to live in a kind community, and this division shouldn't exist between us. All parents and guardians have a choice for their child if there isn't a mask mandate. For the 21-22 school year.
Sorry, Karen. Laura Baxter. Next is Amanda Moon. Amanda Moon, okay, and then after Amanda is Thomas Gardner.
All right, I'm going to be really, really brief. I just want to bring some numbers into perspective. The number that we got for cases for this last week is 64. When you take that the student population posted is 12,799 and you do the math, that's less than 0.5%. It's 0.49%. So, and numbers are down from last week. We're now in a downward trend, so I don't really understand why we're here. I know also if you want to take it into the bigger picture, because some of the people in the community are worried about our children. So if you take that 64 and put it into the population that's posted for Bannock County, which is 87,808, that number becomes even littler. It's 0.07, so less than 1/10 of 1%. So if there are people in our community that are worried about our children getting them sick, I suggest that they wear a mask. The children, parents know our children, those that are at risk, those parents can put a mask on their child. We're getting called anti-maskers. We're not really anti-maskers. We're pro-freedom and pro-choice. We support anyone that wants to wear a mask. We support you. If that helps you and you feel safe, we support you. I know there's some sad stories about some kids that have different conditions that put them at higher risk. Our hearts go out to them, but they can wear a mask. But I don't feel that the rest of the children population should suffer due to that. Again, children recover from COVID-19. There's no reports of children dying in Idaho. They recover from that. Mental health is something that follows you in the bigger picture. So thank you, and just to put that into consideration, again, it's less than 0.5%, 0.49%.
Thank you, Amanda. Thomas Gardner. No Thomas Gardner? Yes, oh, he's coming. Here he is. Okay, and after Thomas is Marcy Kerr.
Hello, everybody. How's everyone doing? Do masks work? Yes, they do. I know this because I wear one at work. It was issued to me since I worked around chlorine gas. If you aren't familiar with chlorine gas, know this, it will kill you, and it will do it fairly quickly. I wear a mask when I'm at risk of being exposed to chlorine. I do this because I trust my mask. It had to be fitted to my face and checked for a complete seal by running in place while reading a story with a smoke bomb ignited. So I must ask, have you test fitted your mask, your child's mask? You expect me, with my limited training, to feel comfortable because our kids are in mask at school. This symbolic reminder is supposed to protect our children from a potentially fatal virus. If this is the case, we might want to rethink our personal protection. The masks some would wish our children to wear have not been engineered or tested or even claimed to protect us from COVID. I know the reason is for good intentions, but please think of the irreversible harm and precious loss of our childhood we are imposing upon our students. This virus is here to stay. We can't run from it. We can't hide from it. We have to live with it for the rest of our lives. How do you want to live your life? With joy? Or with fear from an inevitable virus, for all of us? Unless by miracle of God, we will be infected at some point of our lives. Hopefully we will survive. Most likely we will. Please consider the time already lost. Please do not continue down the same unresourceful path of the past. Please consider these when making your decisions for us, for our children, for our community. Let's see, for my wife. Please don't take away being able to see smiles, laughter, and endearing spirit that children relentlessly show us. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. Marcy Kerr. Okay, here's Marcy. And the next up would be Patty Kemp.
May I quickly ask a question for a colleague who's wondering if emailed in requests are going to be honored?
You have 3 minutes.
I'm asking you, are the people who emailed in their requests going to be able to address the board?
It's your testimony. It's your testimony. You have 3 minutes, and it's counting now.
I'm asking a question. If they are not, I'm going to turn time over to a colleague.
It's in the order that we received them.
Correct, but electronic, did that count? If not, I would like to turn my time over. Okay, but it will count. Thank you. Thank you, board. I realize that you have a very difficult job, and I would not trade anything to be in your shoes. It's hard enough to be in a classroom at this time. And I come to you as a teacher and also a parent, and when you're looking at those things that you've received that talk about how the teachers feel and what the teachers are asking as far as help, please keep in mind that the majority of us are community members and we have children in this district. So when I respond to a district survey as a teacher, I am also a parent. We are also stakeholders in your organization, not just employees. I understand that there were a lot of really good points made about individual liberties and freedoms, but I would remind the board here that when we talk about a mask mandate, they do not work unless everyone is masked. The idea of optional masking does not work. And I brought a visual aid. Hopefully some of you can see this. This is the mask that I teach in at school. You can see there are splatter marks all over that. That is not students breathing on me. That is my students being protected from me breathing on them. Masks prevent the things coming out of our mouths from hurting our students. When I wear a mask, I do it because I travel, I hang out with people, and I don't know if I am an unknown carrier. I lost a grandparent to an asymptomatic unknown carrier on a trip. I lost another grandparent because we couldn't go visit her in the hospital, so she checked herself out against medical advice and died 18 hours later. COVID is hard. There is no good answer. But if you do a mask mandate, it is the only way that masks work. Telling us to vote by wearing a mask does not work. I wear my mask to protect you and to protect my children and my students. Them choosing to wear a mask, this does not protect me. The CDC's proven that, studies have proven that, the gentleman that just spoke proved that. We wear our masks to protect each other. And if we don't all do that, it does not work. If you give us a mask mandate, we need teeth to enforce it and we need your backing. We do not have time in our classrooms to sanitize between classes in a 5-minute period when we're greeting our students, talking to them, telling them to pull their masks up. The sanitization is not happening in the 5-minute passing period. It can't happen. Those little pill things that they give us, 3 days is how long they last before they expire and we have to trade out for new ones. Additionally, it takes 6 minutes for those things to dry and it ruins student stuff if they set it on our desk. We cannot do all of the things you are asking us to do, and if you ask us to mandate masks, we need to have backing there. Additionally, when a student misses, those parents who say it's your responsibility, it pushes it on us too. Last week, I had one class period where 1/3 of my students were gone with COVID. That leaves that 1/3 of students trying to make up 2 weeks worth of work, trying to stay on top of grades and falling behind. These parent decisions are affecting the community. I have to deal with as a teacher, getting those students caught up. It does affect more than just the families.
Patty Kemp.
Good evening. Can you hear me?
Yes, a little bit closer. Just, you can
Just
hold
hold
it.
it,
You can
okay.
hold it.
Can you hear me?
Yep. I
Okay,
think
thank
so.
you. I'm here as a great-grandmother. I have a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old great-grandchildren within the district. We've heard a lot of people talk about K through 12. I want to talk about pre-K, 3 and 4-year-olds. Are we going to require them to wear a mask? I have my little grandson. He is a little slow on talking, but he is progressing every day. But if you require that 3-year-old and some more 3-year-olds to wear a mask, you're going to have a 3-year-old tantrum, and it will not be pretty. I think that they need to see their faces, the teachers. I need to have the child also see that face of the teacher to learn and grow as a child. I think that a parent should have the right to choose whether their child wears a mask or not. I truly do believe that. But I'm sure we will conform to whatever you decide, and I hope you decide that the parent does have that choice. But I do want to ask one question. If you decide that, what are you going to decide for 3 and 4-year-olds? They kind of been left out of the picture a little bit. Do we tell them they can't go to school if they can't wear a mask and that they can't learn? That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Patty.
Thank you very much.
I'm sorry I didn't pre-announce Kayla Lepore. Oh, there she is. Oh, Melinda Brudry is next.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you guys for this time. I have spoke before, but today I'm going to be reading a letter that is from a teacher who would like to remain anonymous. Teacher writes, "To whom it may concern, today I write to you in regards to the decision being made about the COVID roadmap, in particular the mask mandate. I'm a staff member at one of the high schools in this district. In the past, I've paid close attention to the students and would like to report the following. Last year, the district had enacted a mask mandate to return to in-person learning in the fall. It was very evident that there was a very large effect on the students in a mental health aspect. The students were depressed and lethargic. They were not motivated to do their work because, as one student stated to me, 'Why should I? It isn't like it matters.' Each week, students sank deeper and deeper into depression, many of them giving up on schoolwork and only thinking and anxiously awaiting the chance to see their peers face to face. No laughter, no smiles, no new friends. I spoke with students daily who were on the verge of mental breakdowns. The number of students I spoke with who had suicidal thoughts skyrocketed astronomically. When the mask mandate was lifted, it was like a switch was flipped. Students were happy, they smiled and laughed, and most importantly, they engaged in learning again. From my close observations, it was and is very evident that masks are not good for the mental health of our students, which is the reason we're all here, for the children. Another side effect of the mask mandates was bullying. Students bullying other students because of issues related only to masks. Oh, I lost my place, I'm so sorry. Issues of cleanliness, who's wearing it right, whose is affected, whose isn't. But those issues are rather minor. The worst bullying came from staff members, belittling other staff members because they didn't have time to pull their mask up fast enough after they'd had a drink. I'm going to skip a couple lines here. In other instances, staff members had also harassed students, and I'm so sorry. Staff members also harassed students and other staff who had medical exemptions, not accepting their medical diagnoses and forcing the student to comply with their overbearing demands with no regards as to if it put students at a serious health risk. I missed a part in here that was pretty specific, where there was witness of teachers telling students that they would staple the mask to the child's face if they did not wear it correctly. I am not okay with that. This is not my statement, but that's wrong. Once the mandate was repealed, these negative interactions stopped. All the mask mandate alone made our schools into a hostile work environment for both staff and students. By placing a mask mandate as part of the roadmap, you as a board risk putting our students once again in the sight of these bullies. You single out any person with a medical condition and expose them to humiliation. at the hands of staff members and peers. You're taking away their privacy. Mandating masks is a discriminatory action towards anyone who cannot wear a mask, as well as anyone who doesn't think this is the right decision for them. You're sending the message saying your ideas and thoughts do not matter.
Thank you. Melinda? Oh, okay, you here? Okay. And then next is Alice Heberlin.
I had a talk prepared, but a lot of the people have already covered a lot of the things I have to say, so I'm going to say a little bit and kind of speak off. To the teacher who wears the clear face mask, that's the least preventative spreading one. As a nurse and a mother of 3 in this district, I have seen so much occur. I shared an email with all of you guys, if you got it or not, about
just hold it.
Okay, about a study that was presented, a systematic review study, et al., which is a systematic review, which Wikipedia states that systematic reviews are designed to provide an exhaustive summary of current evidence relevant to a research question. That study found that the findings emphasize limited evidence to support the effectiveness of face masks to reduce the transmission of coronavirus. As a nurse, I have seen the increased problems from our mental health amongst our children, especially last year during the lockdown early on and through the hybrid program. I saw an increased number of suicidal ideations and an increased number of behavioral health admits, including to the point that behavioral health teenage patients had to be shipped away as far as Utah and Ada County because we didn't have beds locally to house those children. I had my own child suffer severe depression to the point that he wanted to end his own life over everything. Lucky for my husband and I, we had enough of a relationship that he was willing to come forward and tell us, and he got the help. I just want to make one last point, and that is perhaps the strongest argument for our mask choice lies in our Constitution. Our forefathers were God-fearing men who were divinely inspired to construct the greatest document in history. This document promises each of us God-given inalienable rights, including health freedom to choose as we see fit for ourselves and for our children. I completely agree with Ronald Reagan when he shares his belief that in fighting for our Constitution, he states, "I believe with all my heart that standing up for America means standing up for the God who blessed this land." Like all these parents here speaking to us, I will fight to maintain my God-given rights and my freedom to my dying day. Please take into consideration the statistics I and others have presented, as well as the mental health in every child, our Constitution, and our God-given rights. And lastly, please don't make this end up in the courts, because that's where we're headed.
And then next up would be Catherine Okay, I'm sorry.
We're going to combine because JD sent in a thing also, and you said that we could do that. So this is JD Heberlin, and we'll go at the same time.
Okay. As a student who has been around Century, this is my senior year, so I've been here for a while, and I've seen a lot of people get sick in my classes, and I don't think it's working to have masks as optional. With masks being optional, there are hardly any students who choose to wear these masks, which means there are lots of people with the sniffles that are coughing and they're spreading their diseases all around. Now, why would we put every student at risk over what these kids have? Either we got to do more with no, never mind. But why should we put every student at risk? If everyone is wearing a mask, it is proven by the CDC and the WHO and all those other places that there will be less of a transmission. Henceforth, less kids would be missing school. All our district is doing is making it harder for us to beat the virus by not having a mask mandate. Everyone who comes to school sick is making it easier for the virus to spread to other students who are then going to take home whatever disease they get to their family, and then that spreads it around to the community even more. A mask mandate won't bring our chances to zero, we know that, but it will help. I am begging the district to act with the intent to help the people in our community. Everyone who is considered at risk shouldn't have to worry about what will happen to them on a daily basis. Masks would help the chance of infection go down a lot more than no mask. The other thing we need to consider is teachers and the lack of substitutes. Teachers have to deal with over 100 kids a day, and if there are kids who always get sick in some of these classes, what are we going to do when teachers get sick? There's already a lack of substitute teachers available in the district. So when too many students and teachers are sick because we aren't taking the measures to slow the virus, what choice will we have but to go back onto hybrid or even online? Those are situations that none of us are really eager or wanting to have. So I'm asking you, for the sake of us students, our families, and teachers, to just put a mask mandate in to help slow the spread and make school a safer place for everyone. Even if that means wearing an uncomfortable piece of fabric, it's worth it for our district and for our people. Thank you.
I'd just like to add a couple things. You know, this roadmap, it looks great, and we're saying we're doing all these things in our classrooms, but the problem is the kids that are sick that are coming to school. It sounds great. Last week, 91% attendance, fabulous. But that tells you kids are coming to school sick. I am an assistant swimming coach at Century High School and his mother, and I can tell you we have kids that are sick. We cannot say to them, we can say, would you wear a mask? No, we can't do that. All we can do is say, oh, gee, you're sick. I'm so sorry you're not feeling well. They're coming to school, and they are coughing, they are sniffling, they are sick with symptoms, and all these other preventative measures. I understand that masks are difficult. Nobody likes them. But we're not protecting the kids that are in school from the kids that are coming to school sick.
Thank you.
That's my issue.
Catherine, next up will be Mary Ann McGrory in line. So, Catherine?
Hi, I'm Catherine Winatsky, and I'm your sixth orchestra teacher at Irving Middle School, Pocatello High School, and Century High School. In my 10 years in the school district, I've taught at every middle and high school except for Alameda. I'm in a unique position that has allowed me to see all of the ins and outs of each school and to watch their cultures and norms develop throughout the year. It has become obvious, especially in the past few weeks, that beyond the difficult decisions of mask wearing and navigating a pandemic, we have allowed a toxic and unhealthy culture to develop right in front of us. And please forgive me, as this is not fully directed at you, but rather to our community as a whole. It has become about who can shout the loudest, regardless of the lack of facts that support their arguments. It has become about bullying and name-calling and degrading other people we don't even know. It has been about insinuating that rules don't have to be followed because it goes against someone's opinions and feelings rather than following rules based on scientific fact. As an educator, none of these ideals would be allowed to stand for 1 second in my classroom or any other classroom in this district. So why are we allowing this behavior to dictate choices that directly affect the literal health and safety of not just our students, but of our staff? Our community has become so consumed with this toxicity that it has made me second-guess my ability to be an effective teacher in my classroom, and that it would be better to quit than to continue to come in day after day and be subject to this culture. I love my students and I am good at what I do, but I am not the only teacher that is exhausted, behind in their work, and feeling like we are just an expendable resource rather than a valued asset. We cannot sustain ourselves if we continue on the trajectory we have currently set. I would ask you to support a vote for mandating masks, or at least open the conversation to building an alternative schedule to ease the burden of your teachers, who I promise you are barely keeping it together and leaning on for their literal lives. This is the absolute bare minimum that we can do to keep our students and staff safer and show our community that we can help ease the burden of getting through a pandemic together. I am sorry that you have had to deal with the brunt of this hatred in our community. It's not fair and it's not right. You do not hear this enough, so thank you for all of the work you have done. It does not go unnoticed. These are not easy decisions. I know how difficult it is to step up and defend your decisions when everyone around you is demeaning your work and attacking you personally. I might not always agree with your decisions, but I will respect your decisions as a board because you step up to do the work and make decisions that others will not. Please prioritize the health and safety of our school community and our community at large before it is too late. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Catherine. Mary Ann? In line is Chris Linehan. Chris Chris Linehan, I believe that's the name. Okay, you're next in line.
Good evening, trustees and district staff. As you know, I'm Mary Ann McGrory. I'm the president of the PEA, vice president of the IEA. I would like to come tonight to share with you some results from a survey. The PEA is a member-driven organization, and you heard last week that 60% of the members who participated in our survey asked for masks. After the meeting last week, PEA members asked the PEA Executive Board to extend the surveys in relation to COVID to all non-members as well. Thus, the PEA conducted a new survey. Unfortunately, it could only run from Sunday night to this afternoon at 1 p.m. All school-based classified and certified staff were invited to participate. As you can see from the previously sent results, the report is 49 pages long. 59.2% believe you should adopt the roadmap as written. 51.2% believe masks should be required for both staff and students. Concerns regarding masks fall into one of three categories. Category 1, staff who do not believe that COVID should be a serious concern. Category 2, staff who believe that masks should remain a personal or parental choice. And Category 3, staff who are concerned with safety issues. In this group, we have some staff who believe that masks cause harm and are reluctant to enforce masks out of this concern. We also have staff who believe that COVID is a serious concern and masks should be required for protection. Members of this group are fearful of the repercussions from parents and students should masks be required. I'm going to skip down a little bit. Today, Maggie Mann recounted Idaho has 4 children in the ICU for COVID, and that our numbers for children testing positive are at 839 in this region. However, we know that we have concerns that the district numbers that we hear are also underreported. Student numbers are not being reported or tested, and COVID positive students are still being sent to school. If this mask mandate is passed, serious consideration must be given as to who will be required to enforce it. Our teachers just cannot do one more thing this year. We are hanging on by a knot in the rope, in the rope, I guess. I will send you the rest of this. You did get the results from the survey, and thank you for your time.
Great, thank you, Mary. Chris? Jesse Arnold will be in line.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak about whether or not to reinstate a mask mandate district-wide. My name is Chris Linehan, and I teach at Franklin Middle School. I realize the enormity of your decision and respectfully request that whatever you decide, that you base it on what the medical experts recommend and the facts as they relate to how the pandemic is playing out here in Bannock County. Personally, I have been vaccinated and choose not to wear a mask in my classroom. However, if your decision is to reinstate a mask mandate, I will absolutely comply. I only ask that you look to the science and not the loudest voices in the room when you make your choice. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Jesse Arnold? Yep, hope so. And then next up will be Alex Kuiper.
My 7-year-old started kindergarten the year the schools were shut down. Last year, he dutifully wore a mask, but started having nightmares about wearing a mask and feeling like he couldn't breathe. We tried a face shield, but it was difficult for him to do the programs and testing on the computers with the double glare. My son is a dedicated and well-behaved learner who loves school. He is now fearful that the school staff may react negatively if he feels that he cannot wear a mask all day. He asked if I can write a note to his teacher. He doesn't feel safe at school, and he doesn't know what to expect when the rules are constantly changing, at least in his few short years of experience. My 12-year-old gets embarrassed because he hyperventilates when he puts on a mask. He worries that he might be expelled if he can't handle wearing a mask all day. What would you have me tell my children if a mask mandate is required? How bad does a condition have to be considered a valid reason for an opt-out of the mask? My children have never needed counseling, so I don't have a doctor's note. Have the learners and parents been told what options they have if they need a break from their face covering, and what actions will be followed by staff if a learner needs a break? Have we done a social emotional wellness survey to check on our learners to make sure their needs are being listened to and met in this process? Before you make any requirements, I would ask that you specifically address the emotional ramifications for our learners. Thank you.
Thank you. Alex, then Courtney Workman is next.
Good evening, board members. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak on the matter of the mask mandate. I'm Alex Kuiper. I'm a student at Pocatello High School, and I'm a part of the speech and debate team. I'm speaking in favor of the roadmap, and more specifically the mask mandate, for a few reasons. First, masks work at preventing the spread of COVID-19. The CDC recommends that masks should be worn by people over the age of 2 anytime you are in a public setting and when you're around people who do not live with you. But do they actually work? According to an article from MIT Medical, evidence for the efficacy of masks comes from both laboratory studies and real-world scenarios. They go on to say a recent study, for example, used publicly available data to calculate the COVID-19 growth rate before and after mask mandates between the end of March and late May of 2020. Researchers found that mask mandates led to a marked slowdown in the daily growth rate, estimating that mask mandates may have prevented up to 450,000 cases of COVID-19. Second, masks are safe. There has been talk about a study that proves increased carbon dioxide levels with mask wearing. The study in question is titled Experimental Assessment of Carbon Dioxide Content in Inhaled Air with or Without Face Masks in Healthy Children, a randomized clinical trial. The only problem with it is that it's incorrect. Only 16 days after publication, the study was retracted due to insufficient evidence. Also, according to Mayo Clinic, for many years, healthcare providers have worn masks for extended periods of time with no adverse health reactions. There's no risk of hypoxia, which is lower oxygen levels. Carbon dioxide will freely diffuse through your mask as you breathe. Before I end, I just want to say that even though masks are still a debate between students, I know that most students hated hybrid and online school, including me, because of the stress and how it makes it more frustrating for students, especially with technology difficulties. Also from personal experience, there have been many surveys to teacher, but none to students. Also from personal experience, from friends I've talked to, and some like the mask. It boosts confidence and it makes me feel less self-conscious about my looks. Also about the talk of depression and suicidal thoughts. I myself has had major suicidal thoughts, and some of my friends too. In no way have masks made my depression worse, and instead it has actually made it better by boosting my self-confidence by wearing them. Thank you, and I hope you vote in favor of the mask mandate to keep more of our students and staff safe. The voting on this mandate and roadmap comes down to a matter of feelings and life. Thank you.
Courtney. Okay, and next up will be Daphne Heath. Daphne Heath will be next in line.
Hi, I'm going to be sharing a letter from a teacher that isn't able to be here tonight and who would like to remain anonymous. I have been a teacher and a coach at Highland High School for going on 10 years. I am a department chair and a member of our building leadership team. I love where I work and the many amazing students with whom I am privileged to rub shoulders. I regard each one of my coworkers as family and admire these talented professionals. I am not a member of the PEA, and this organization does not represent my views on this topic, nor are they obligated to do so. Non-member teachers' views were intentionally disregarded during the board meeting last week. My purpose in writing today is to have my voice heard and express my firm opposition to a mask mandate. I strongly endorse the rights of families and individuals to make their own preventative health decisions. Mask mandate proponents say, follow the science. Typically, this just means I found this study that I agree with, and so should you. These same people disbelieve all other science. They tell us wearing a mask is such a simple thing. Why do you want to kill everyone by not wearing a mask? They seldom talk about the things we can do that are not so easy, but much more effective. Practices such as regular outdoor exercise, a healthy diet, and good hygiene provide far more protection than a flimsy cloth mask. Some purport that masks prevent the spread of COVID. This notion is false. Masks at best slow the spread and at worst cause untold emotional and health problems for students and adults alike. To this point in the current school year, the percentage of students wearing masks at Highland High School, by my estimation, appears to be less than 10%. Families in this community have taken an obvious and clear position on mask wearing. It is arrogant to suggest that these families made their decisions based on a lack of information on both sides of the issue, or to simply oppose the beliefs of others. Students suffer greatly from all-day mask wearing. Most withdraw from the learning process. Face coverings make it difficult for me to engage students. Participation decreases dramatically. Achievement goes down and depression increases. Students feel anonymous behind the mask. This has and will continue to cause obvious and possibly long-term emotional trauma to students. On a personal note, I smile a lot. Students need my smile, and I need theirs in return. I respectfully urge the board to continue to recommend, but not require, mask wearing. Thank you.
Correct. I know. I was going to read that. We have Daphne here, and the last speakers will be Tyler and Danielle Richardson. Daphne,
I'm going to start tonight by reading a quote by Martin Luther King Jr. It says, "There comes a time when one must take a position that is neither safe, nor politic, nor popular, but he must take it because his conscience tells him it is right." My students just recently finished reading a story in our literature book called My Brother Martin, and we've been discussing Martin Luther King Jr. for the last couple weeks, and discussing that it's important to have an opinion and to respect everyone's opinion. And so I'm here tonight on behalf of my students because I want them to know that they have a right to their opinion. Everyone does, and that's why we're all here. Have been inundated for the last, since school started, with all kinds of information about masks, whether they work or whether they don't work. And the truth is, we don't all know the truth. I was a debater in high school, and you can find information to fit whatever belief that you have. So any belief you have, you can find it to fit whatever you want. The truth is, we wouldn't be here if we had the truth. And so we have to go off what we believe in. And the truth that I see at Green Acres Elementary School is that we have a bunch of really great, awesome teachers and a good principal that wants the very best for their students. In my class, I can only say what happens in my class, but right now, the truth is that beginning of the school year, I have 85% of my students not wearing a mask. And since last week, where it was mandated and then unmandated, the same students, 85%, still are coming to school without a mask. So it's very clear that parents really want a choice with what their students are doing. And as a teacher, it is my feeling that I represent those students and I am a servant to their families. I believe that they have a right. I don't know what every individual student's problem is. I have no idea. And I always say, because I've had students in this district too, I'm a mom, that parents know what's best for their children. They know what's going on. And if you were listening earlier to the principals that spoke earlier, as a teacher, it is really hard for me every single day, especially with elementary school, to tell a student to please quit sucking on their mask or licking it or pulling it down, because it doesn't do anything if they keep pulling it down. Right now in my classroom, truth. Kids who are sick have been staying at home, and when they come back to school, they're wearing a mask. In my classroom, because we talk a lot about everyone's opinion matters and that we need to be respectful, I honestly have not seen people being bullied. Now, does that happen? Yes, it does. Bullying happens, it does happen, but as a teacher and as teachers in our Green Acres building, we're trying really hard to make it so that everyone's opinion matters, and we're trying to be thoughtful of parents and
Tyler and Danielle? Got it.
Thank you for this opportunity to address you. I had Tyler on the list because I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make the meeting. I would like to talk to you today about the roadmap for 2021-2022 school year. My first concerns about it, this will work, are the key metrics for decision making. There are no percents to guide your decisions on whether you move from Tier 1 to Tier 2. For example, when the school district reaches a 2% positivity rate that is sustained for 14 days, we will move to Tier 2. There are no definitive numbers or percents that guide your decision making. Under definitions section, number 2, under definitions section, specifically face covering section, it states, face coverings are recommended but are optional. However, the board may require mask coverings at any time if widespread or rapid community and or school transmission occurs. Mandates are a sensitive subject, and this clause pretty much allows you total control over it without any outside input. Under number 3, under process and timeline for review, it states the Board of Trustees will review and, if necessary, revise the PCSD 25 roadmap at the August and February regular board meetings through August of 2023. With all three of the above issues, this school board has a lot of leeway when it comes to mask mandates and opening and closing our schools. This roadmap is going to be around till 2023. If we are keeping this plan till 2023, it should be flawless and clear in its decisions so we aren't constantly blindsided when changes are made. To allow for transparency, the public should have access to the same dashboard. The school leadership should have access to the same dashboard the school leadership does, so we can follow along and prepare our children for the changes. I have 2 children, and I am a poor enough employee. I'm telling you, as an employee, it's hard to wear my mask every day. I got the vaccine hoping that I could go without a mask, and that has yet to happen. Briefly in the summertime, we were allowed to take off the N95 mask and just wear surgical masks if we were vaccinated. And boy, did I enjoy that breath of fresh air. But we are back to wearing N95s again. And it is hard. My son cried when I told him the mandates are back. He says, I can't breathe. I can't communicate with my peers. I can't understand my teacher.
Can't listen?
I can't listen. I can't understand.
Okay, we have 2 options or for motions included in our agenda. The first is to adopt the roadmap as written, maintaining an optional face mask covering policy. The second one is to adopt the roadmap with an amendment to require masks and face coverings for the K-12 students, staff, visitors with indoor and on all buses. Is there a motion?
Mr. Chair, I would like to note before we make a recommendation
You want to discuss?
that we have, we're asked, well, we're actually mandated. Is yours working?
I think, yeah, no. Is this working? Is it working?
Mine,
Can you hear me now?
oh, here it is. Put it in my mouth. we, as school board members, Idaho code tells us that it is our job to make decisions that keep our students and staff safe. Therefore, I move that we take option number 2 that includes the masks.
Okay, hold on a minute, hold on.
is not you.
Hold on, this is us. Okay, you said the motion?
Yes.
And you seconded. Okay, any discussion? Okay, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Aye. That motion has failed, so let's go to option number 1. Read
Okay.
that.
Okay, and I will preface this for just a minute. After our last meeting, I called principals, went home and I called principals, and I asked them how things were working and how things were going. And you heard the principals here tonight, and I want to thank them because they are there working with your children. And I want to thank this administration because they have worked hard. For those of you who came here tonight to just simply bash the school board, shame on you, this is a hard job. And I just say, if you wanted to come and say your opinion about face masks, that was great and fine with me. But I have never had a comment from a person on an email who wanted the mandate, who was rude or ugly or belligerent. And I thank them for that. And I feel somewhat betraying to them of their faith and trust in us. But as I looked at the numbers and I listened to the principals and I went over hours and hours and reviewed this roadmap that they came up with. And they made some revisions to it tonight, a few revisions. But this is a working, breathing roadmap. It can't be, I want to address the idea that doesn't give specific numbers and everything, because we have to go by things that happen, and with illnesses, you never know. I mean, things can happen overnight. But I too think that we need to do this and have some comfort that this is where we'll stay for a while, hopefully, unless things become really bad. So because of the things I've learned, and I move that we adopt this revised roadmap as written tonight, maintaining an optional mask face covering.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay, that motion is passed.
Thank you, Chair. Can I say something?
What's that? I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move that we
adjourn. What's that?
He wanted to say.
Oh, wait, hold on. You want to speak? Go ahead.
Well, first of all, some of the comments that were made, I resent the fact that you say that we take our personal desires on the school board. I resent the fact that you say that we don't listen. I know for a fact that all of us have spent hours and hours reading hundreds and hundreds of emails in both directions, and we try to figure out what we do. I don't take the threats very well. I don't like being threatened or pushed into anything. And I want you to know that we do listen, and we do have the best interests of the kids at heart, and our staff. And anyway, that's all I got to say.
Okay. I I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
I move we adjourn.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?